Hi, I'm Jay. Welcome to Pages and Percolators. So this is a brand new channel for me. I'm usually known for my video game content. You might recognize me from the YouTube channel Square Pegs, where I talk about the best in retro and modern gaming. Please subscribe if you like that stuff too. But I also like books, and that has not always been the case. In fact, recently I hadn't read for over a year. 2024 and 2025, I don't think I read a single book. And it wasn't until 2026 when I read Dungeon Crawler Carl that started to change. Really kind of reignited my passion for reading, and I wanted to be able to kind of talk to you guys and talk about the different kind of books that I'm reading, books that I'm digging, books that I'm enjoying, and a special thing that my wife and I are going to be doing where she's going to be suggesting me a book from her library to read. Now, I'm a little bit terrified of that, but that's okay. It's going to be fun. She's going to give me some truly interesting stuff, I'm sure, to read. I will show you some B-roll of her shelves here in a little bit, and then I'll show you mine. But today I just wanted to kind of give you a rundown of some of the books that make up my DNA, of who I am as a reader. And yes, the Dungeon Crawler Carl series is on there. I'm not going to talk about that a ton right now. It will happen, but today it doesn't really need to. Rest assured, I read all 8 books in about 2 months. Really appreciate them. I think they're excellent. I'm excited for all things Carl, and yeah, so we'll just go from there. But we're going to start off with some of my books that have meant a lot to me throughout my life. And up first is one that my mom got me. This was for my 6th birthday. This is Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne. So this is a printing of the Winnie the Pooh book. This is from 1961. Obviously, the Pooh Bear books are from earlier than that, but that particular copy is from 1961, and that was something my mom got me for my 6th birthday in 1985. It was a huge influence on me growing up. I loved the Winnie the Pooh characters. I loved the books. Growing up, Winnie the Pooh was like my favorite thing. I had a stuffed animal, Winnie the Pooh, that had a bell in his ear. That was my teddy bear when I was a kid. My grandfather made me a little hand-carved piglet that I still have to this day. It's probably my most prized possession. And I loved the character. I loved the books. I loved the entire adventures of the entire 100 Acre Wood crew, and it was something that really stuck with me for a long time, even to the point where I still enjoy the most recent Winnie the Pooh movie that Disney released. Yeah, the movie where Craig Ferguson played Owl, I thought was absolutely brilliant. Just amazing book. Another one from my childhood, and this kind of is representative of an entire series of books, and this is a company that I've been fortunate enough to work with. I've done some coverage for them on my other YouTube channel. I will be doing some more coverage for them on my other YouTube channel, but is the Choose Your Own Adventure series. This is the first book in the franchise, The Cave of Time. Choose Your Own Adventure books came to me at a time when, as much as I loved reading, I wasn't doing a ton of it. It was far more fun to play on my NES. And then I discovered Choose Your Own Adventure, which was like going on an adventure in a video game, just in book form, and I thought that was amazing. Kind of explains why I love the Dungeon Crawler Carl franchise so much and other lit RPG, but it was a book that, and specifically A Cave of Time, War with the Evil Power Master, and the First Olympics were like the big 3 that I remember. They were books that, to me, kind of spoke on a lot of different levels, where there was risk involved in reading. Like, you could die in the books and you would have to start over. You could really tailor your interests in your reading to be more directed towards things that you loved. And there were a lot of really fun books like that were kind of Choose Your Own Adventure books, that not directly from the Choose company, but that were utilizing properties like the Transformers that put them into Choose Your Own Adventure type adventures. And I thought that was fantastic. But the original series is always going to be the best. It continues today. Like, a lot of people are shocked by that Choose Your Own Adventure is still around and still thriving. Like, they're an unbelievable company, and they are fantastic. If you have a Threads account, please be sure to follow them, because they're absolutely brilliant. I love those books. I think they're important. I think they matter, and they're an incredibly valuable tool for getting kids to read more. And I know it worked on me. Like, it was something that just I loved, and I still love. I still think they're fun, even being well past the reading level. I think they're enjoyable. All right, this one's very special to me. So this was. And if you are joining me from my gaming channel, you've heard this story before, so I apologize for restating it, but I have always been into superheroes. Superheroes have been some of my favorite things, and there will be comics talked about on this channel as well, especially graphic novels and things like that, collected editions. But when I was probably 8 or 9, maybe 10, living in Fall River, Massachusetts with my mom and my stepdad, we went to the Fall River Public Library, which is one of the greatest libraries ever created. And I was talking to the librarian in the kids section about my love of superheroes and how I just wanted to read superheroes. And they gave me this book as a suggestion saying, hey, if you like superheroes so much, you might like this. And it was the Delaire's Book of Greek Myths. And I read this book. This is probably like my 5th copy of this book in my life. I read that book cover to cover in a day. I was immediately fascinated with the entire idea of Greek mythology, and that led to a love of folklore from other cultures as well. I still love Greek mythology to this day. I love the Percy Jackson franchise. I think it's fantastic. And that all stems from that book. And it was really cool to kind of see the inspiration. Like, my favorite superhero is the Flash. And to see kind of the inspiration of the character of Hermes, or Mercury, if you're looking at the Roman gods, to being applied to characters like Jay Garrick from the Golden Age of comics, I thought was fascinating. And it was a really neat bridge to see that crossing happening from something that was ancient and epic to today. Like, there's comparisons that can be made between Superman and Hercules. There are comparisons, obviously, between Hermes and the Flash, and the Amazons, and Wonder Woman, and Hades, and Batman. Like, there's all kinds of different things that you can kind of put these things together and realize that a lot of our modern mythology stems from classic mythology. It's just a retelling. And that's kind of the entirety of human history, right? Like, we tell stories and we retell stories to be applicable and enjoyable to us in our time. It's pretty awesome. I mean, we just had the Odyssey released in theaters. Like, it's an ancient epic. We have a new interpretation of it. That's pretty amazing. All right, so getting into more signature stuff for me, like that was my childhood, and some of these are things that stem from my teenage years, my early 20s, and things like that. But fantasy has always been my favorite genre, and while for a lot of people that may have started with Lord of the Rings, and eventually I did get to Lord of the Rings, and I love the Lord of the Rings, where it really started for me was with The Sword of Shannara by Terry Brooks, which for years I said The Sword of Shannara until I listened to the audiobook last year and I went, oh, that's how it's pronounced. Oops. I adore that franchise. And while the franchise can meander and can lose its way from time to time, I think the first 3 books and then the Scion series, or the Heritage of Shannara series, is some of the best fantasy you can have, because it told a really compelling story that kind of hinted at some certain things, and then it was kind of driven home in the 4-book series, the second series that came out, talking about this basically being our world just post-apocalyptic, which I thought was fascinating. It's the first time I'd ever read anything like that. And to learn the history of it, and then to start reading more of the Shannara series with The Word and the Void, and then learning about the different things from there, and seeing how all of that pulls into to the core Shannara experience, was just world building at its absolute best and blew my mind. And it was something that I still love these books today. Like, I still think they're some of the best fantasy ever made. I think Terry Brooks is a brilliant writer. I also love his Landover series. They're absolutely wonderful. But for me, the Shannara series is, especially those first 7 books, are just like core necessary experiences for people who read literature. I think they are just perfect examples of what fantasy could be, and just brilliant characterization, brilliant writing, brilliant everything about it I love. Forgot to grab a copy of it, but Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy should absolutely be on this list. It's downstairs. I think it's on my son's bookshelves, because I gave him my copy, and I need a new one myself. But I love the Hitchhiker's Guide. That was one. I remember my mom has always been a little subversive. So I lived between my mom and my grandparents' place. My grandparents were very conservative and very primitive. I mean, they were born in the 1920s. Of course they were. And my mom was born in the 50s and 60s, and she grew up a little more counterculture than they were used to, I would say. And I remember when I was, I think it was 12 or 13, she gave me a copy of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and my grandma lost her fucking mind when she saw it, because why am I reading about hitchhiking? Yeah, she ignored all the other shit I had on my shelves, but that one really got under her skin. But it's important. It's brilliant. It's fantastic. It's one of the greatest sci-fi novels ever written. Read it, especially if you like Dungeon Crawler Carl. If you've never read it, you should, because a lot of storyline from Dungeon Crawler Carl is lent and borrowed, or at least attributed, in my eyes at least. I don't know if it's necessarily true. I've never met Matt Dinneman. I can't speak for him, but to me, I think there's a lot of attribution grabbed from Hitchhiker's Guide that's brought into Dungeon Crawler Carl. Okay, so now back to books I actually have with me. This is one of my favorite things. So I grew up a child of the 80s, so of course I love things like The Goonies, like Indiana Jones, like Ghostbusters, like Star Wars. And for a long time, the only Star Wars stories we were getting weren't told on screens or weren't told on TV screens or anything like that or in the movie theaters. They were told in books. The expanded universe was just incredible. I absolutely loved it. I love the Tales from series. I love those different anthology books. I love everything that Timothy Zahn did, but my favorite Star Wars stuff is the Star Wars X-Wing franchise. I love these. I was blown away by the fact that they took something that was a throwaway character like Wedge Antilles in the movies, and they turned Wedge into not only one of the most important characters in Star Wars to a true leading man and someone that was unbelievably fun and important and clever, and it was just so cool to see. And the books themselves are amazing. And for something that changed author hands halfway through, you went from Michael Stackpole to Aaron Alston. You had someone come in and take over a franchise from the original writer, which could have completely obliterated any kind of continuity or any kind of momentum that the series had, but instead it got better. Like, it was something that just kind of continued to snowball and continued to create and be incredible. And it was one that I really attribute a lot of my continued love of Star Wars and kind of my continued adoration of that franchise to those books. And for that series to come out around the same time that the X-Wing versus TIE Fighter video games came out, which were amazing and fantastic and fun and different than anything else we had gotten for Star Wars in the previous years, I think it was just a right opportunity at the right time, and just brilliant sci-fi and great interpersonal skills and some really fun interaction with like really big established characters in the Star Wars universe that were different than anything we'd seen on screen. Just awesome. Much as I would like to say that everything on this list is going to be fun fiction and just fantastical storylines, that's not always going to be true, because I don't always just read fiction. Sometimes my nonfiction stuff is really, really compelling to me. And one of the ones that I want to talk about that I love is Please Kill Me, the oral history of punk rock. The uncensored oral history of punk, I'm sorry. It's a hard book to read because it's essentially a textbook. It's kind of a music studies course in one subject about punk rock. And it's a fascinating read, especially if you have an adoration of that musical subgenre like I do. It's something that really kind of delves deep into each of the personalities of these people that were involved in the punk movement for like the first 15 years, 20 years of the music being around. It was something that really kind of delves into the history, kind of learning the personalities of the people behind the scenes and not just what you get on stage, and kind of reading about the anti-establishment and of course the selling out, because you're not punk until you sell out. It's just a brilliant history of the genre told from the mouths of the people that actually lived it and created the music. And I think that's pretty cool. I think that's a really clever way to do it. And while it can be dry and can be a difficult read at times, especially when you start getting into the drug use and things like that, I think it is an important look into the world of music, especially music like punk, which was so integral to who I was growing up. As mentioned, comics will be on this list. This is a collection of comics and not necessarily just like one story arc from a comic or anything like that. In fact, it's not a comic book at all. It is a comic strip. And one of the most influential comic strips on me growing up was Bloom County. And this is Billy and the Boingers. I love the Bloom County collections. This one in particular is just a kind of like the oral history of punk. It's kind of a picture in time of what was going on in the 80s here in the States. And it was just a really fascinating look at culture through Berkeley Breathe's eyes and how he wanted to interpret that and kind of the absurdity that happened in Bloom County with Bill the Cat and Opus and all the characters involved. It was just a fascinating book, and one that just really lends itself to a reread every once in a while, just because a lot of the stuff, like history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, and you get a lot of this kind of the same themes that were portrayed very well in Bloom County happening today. So love those books. This one doesn't need a whole lot of conversation because everyone knows it, everyone loves it. This is The Hobbit. This is my leather-bound kind of, I call it my little Tolkien Bible, because it is a leatherette cover. There's maps and it's gold leaf on the sides, and I think it's great. It's not super fancy. It was one that sold at Target and we got a few years ago, but I just love it. I think it's wonderful. It's probably the most important fantasy book ever written outside of things like the Iliad and the Odyssey. I think it's, it matters. In 1,000 years, that'll probably be considered our mythology, and this is what people will think we believed. Continuing with nonfiction now, and one of the most compelling reads I've ever done. For someone that briefly worked in cafes and worked in coffee shops, I never really had the opportunity to work in kitchens, but reading Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain made me feel like I had, because his storytelling is impeccable, his ability to draw you into a story is phenomenal, and just a true heart on your sleeve author, which I think is kind of signature to who Bourdain was. Like if you ever watched No Reservations or any of his other series, you kind of knew who he was from the things he loved and the things he spoke passionately about. And you get that same experience in Kitchen Confidential. Same thing with Chef's Tour or Cook's Tour. If you haven't read that one, it's worth reading as well. But Kitchen Confidential, I think, is one of those books that everyone should read just because it tells the story of growing up and living in the service industry and kind of the debauchery that happens there, and how you're able to pull yourself out of it and really turn your life into something incredible. I think it's just a remarkable book. First concert I ever went to, and one of my favorite musical artists is Jimmy Buffett, and Tales from Margaritaville is an incredible anthology that shows not only was Buffett a skilled songwriter, he was an incredible storyteller. You can really see the influences of Mark Twain in his songs. You can see it even more in his stories. This is a particularly fantastic collection of books, or particularly fantastic collection of stories that really kind of lean into the Gulf and Western side of things that Jimmy was known for. You get a lot of stories of like Tully Mars and Mr. Twain, the cowboy from Wyoming who rides his pony to the sea, Aurora and Boring Alice, the swamp monster lit one in. Like it's a collection of stories that I love, and ones that I think are, even if you're not a fan of Buffett's music, there's a story in there for you to read and enjoy, because he touches so many different genres and so many different types of storytelling that it really shows how skilled he was. One of the only books, and actually this might be the only book I have signed outside of some comics, is Have a Nice Day by Mick Foley. This is Mick Foley's autobiography. If you don't know who Mick Foley was, he's a professional wrestler, or was a professional wrestler. He is known for hardcore wrestling, so lots of blood, lots of gore, lots of hyper violence. And I didn't really know what to expect from this book. I knew I liked Foley's work. I knew I liked him as a wrestler, but it was kind of absurd that he was writing a book, because he's kind of portrayed as a goofball, right? He's this kind of crazy, hyper-violent guy. What does he have to say? It's one of the most heartwarming and just like truly touching stories I've ever read. Foley's a mastercraft writer, and everything he has written since has been spectacular. I got that signed at the Orlando Auto Show back in 1999. And I gave Mick a tie that he wore on SmackDown that week. It was just a truly wonderful experience, and one of the most just gracious and giving people I've ever spoken to. Incredible experience overall, and a phenomenal writer. As someone who fancies himself a bit of a writer and likes to think of himself as a wordsmith that can never finish the story, there is a particular book that I think is vitally important for anyone that writes, or anyone who likes to write, and it is On Writing by Stephen King. This is Stephen King's kind of memoir of the craft, is what he calls it. And it's a really fascinating insight into his mind and how he organizes himself for telling a story, and how he goes about kind of formulating the story beats, and how he makes sure that he's actually writing and not just talking about being a writer. It's a vitally important book, I think, for anyone that reads or writes to experience, even if you only read a chapter of it, just to kind of get a bit of the insight into King's mind. I think it matters. I am not the biggest Stephen King fan, which I think is interesting. Like I like some of his books, but I don't really get into the horror stuff. Like I liked The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon and The Colorado Kid and stuff like that. But the heavy horror stuff I just never really dug. I like the Gunslinger series. Gunslinger series is awesome, but a fascinating person and just a fascinating read. The book that got me back into reading this year. And while I could talk and wax on about the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, which is brilliant and phenomenal, and one of the single greatest, I think, literary achievements from a writer, kind of out of nowhere. Like I know that's kind of dismissive of everything that Dinman has done with his life, but I had never heard of the dude until Dungeon Crawler Carl hit, and then it was fucking everywhere. But the one that got me into reading, and the one that really brought me back into it, and gave me a new appreciation for sci-fi, and kind of an insight into who Dinman is as an author and a person, is Operation Bounce House. I love this book. I like it better than any of the Dungeon Crawler Carl books, and that says a lot because those books are transcendent. This one, though, is special because it brought me back to reading, like I said, but there was a story told in this that I think is important today. It's deeply anti-colonization, deeply anti-media manipulation, anti-AI, the whole nine. Like, it's something that you can really see the values that Dinniman holds are told true in Operation Bounce House. Pro-family, profound family. And it's stuff that kind of translates into Dungeon Crawler Carl as well. And while I know a lot of people don't love this one as much, I don't think people gave it enough of a fair shake because they were expecting lit RPG and instead they just got heavy sci-fi. It's a war story told from the perspective of kids that just want to live their lives on their farm. And I think it's important and remarkable and kind of a masterpiece. And I'm so thankful that I decided to read it this year. Even before I read Dungeon Crawler Carl, it was one that I was just like, yeah, I needed something new. Let me take a look at it. Hey, it's orange. That's my favorite color. I'll read that one. Like, literally, that was my thought process. Just a phenomenal book. If you haven't read it, please do so. That's an insight into me. That's just a brain dump kind of word vomit here of things that I like, books that have been important to me. I can't wait to talk to you guys about more books. First one we're going to talk about is He Who Fights with Monsters. I'm currently reading that for a book club at Words on Pages bookshop in Paw Paw, Michigan, which is fantastic. They do a monthly Dungeon Crawler Carl book club, and then they do a different one here at One Well Brewery in Portage, Michigan, where I live, where they talk about different books every month. And this month it is He Who Fights with Monsters, which I'm enjoying, but not as much as I've enjoyed Carl and some other lit RPG. But anyway, let me know, just whatever, talk to me down in the comments. I don't really know where I'm going with this. Like I said, first video, trying to figure things out. This is much better than my first video on my gaming channel, I will say that. So, hey, thanks for stopping by. Pour yourself a cup of coffee and let's talk some books.